Hi, hello everyone, welcome back. I'm doing another episode on the new series Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, which is executive produced by Joss Whedon, who I'm nuts for, and so I'm doing a video on each episode of the series for as long as I can stand it. So this is the second episode so far. It's called 084, numeral 0, numeral 8, numeral 4, which is of course the code for an object of unknown origin that S.H.I.E.L.D. has to investigate. I was talking about last episode I liked but didn't love. This episode I liked a heck of a lot more, and it's just one of the many examples of why I always prefer to watch an episode of television, particularly one by Joss Whedon, without knowing what happens in advance, without having read the synopsis online or seeing any of the coming next week on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I always turn off or change the channel right before that comes on as soon as the episode I'm watching is finished, because I don't want to know a thing about what's happening. And this is one of the prime examples why, because the twists, the surprises, they're awesome. They're really, really great. Not quite on par with the reveal of November in Dollhouse, which is one of my all-time favorite Joss Whedon reveals, but still really cool. So the episode opens with what's-her-face, the hacker, Skye, moving her stuff onto the giant S.H.I.E.L.D. transport, which they nicknamed the bus. Funny, I saw something recently in which another character was driving the bus. I think that was actually Clooney in what's it called? It just came out. Gravity, right, exactly, Gravity. It's like I'm the guy that drives the bus. The geniuses are the ones that are working on the ship. And so, yeah, you have, of course, Ming-na as Agent May flying the plane, and, the various other main characters on the team, 5 of them, hanging out in the plane, ready to do whatever needs to be done. So the episode opens with a shot of the plane, and then a giant hole gets blasted in the side of it, and people start falling out of it, and then it flashes back. And as soon as it flashes back, okay, I'm thinking 6 hours earlier, right? No, 2 days earlier. Then it comes up 19 hours later. I'm like, oh, I guess I wasn't even close on either count. So once Skye gets loaded on the plane, she just says hello again to everyone, starts to settle in, and then we've got the mission ready to start. This apparently takes place almost immediately after the first episode, because they talk about being notified of the 084, as they call it, at the end of episode 1. So they take off, and there's the reference to Skye again, and how Ward doesn't trust her entirely because she's a part of this hacker group called Rising Tide. And again, in this episode, same as in the first episode, we have the reference to, what was it called again? Aunt Mindy's Ranch. And the last scene in the episode takes place on Aunt Mindy's Ranch. Whereas this one, again, you begin with dialogue right away, pretty much right away, that refers to something that happens at the end of the episode, which, of course, Skye contacting her friends in Rising Tide via her cell phone. I should remind everybody again that I'm going to have a lot of spoilers in this episode, in this video, just so that you know. That's why I'm posting it almost a whole week after the episode airs. Hopefully you all have seen it. If you haven't and are planning to, please don't watch any further. Now, in the first episode, I wasn't really clear on Rising Tide. I thought it was basically just her doing her own revolutionary thing, gathering information that was supposed to be secret, putting it out there on the web for everyone to see. But no, she's part of a group, an interconnected group of computer hackers who are intent on revealing government secrets and things like that. Now, Coulson, during the course of the show, says, here's what we need you to do. Since you're an expert at this, what we need to do is we need to find information about the missions that we're undergoing, the secrets that we need to keep, and steer people away from that. Do whatever you can, steer web traffic away, distract or whatever. And she's just like, great, this is exactly what I'm opposed to. This is what I'm working against S.H.I.E.L.D. for in the first place. I didn't want to really be part of that. But she became part of it anyway because, of course, there was, Coulson tempted her with the idea that she would be seeing a lot of stuff that she would never get to see firsthand otherwise, which she does, of course, but she still has her principles. and that in the end she decides to let them know that she is she decides to let her hacker friends know in part of Rising Tide that she is in fact a member of a S.H.I.E.L.D. team now, and that she might end up feeding them information. Though why she does this from her cell phone, I don't know. You'd think that S.H.I.E.L.D. itself would have a lot of scanning equipment capable of intercepting those kinds of transmissions from people's personal devices, but I guess she has the most secure personal device that's ever been built because she isn't afraid of being discovered. At least not yet. Yeah. So anyway, they arrive in Peru to find the mysterious object, the 084, and it turns out to be a piece of German weaponry that fueled by Tesseract energy. In other words, it's a relic from the time in which the Red Skull from Captain America used the Tesseract to power a whole bunch of weapons from the Captain America movie that came out in 2011. And the story goes, some of these German scientists escaped to other parts of the world and were subsequently hired by other governments to build Tesseract-like weapons. So that, and this is one of these weapons. They find it basically in Peru. And of course, we have the commando, the Peruvian woman who's a leader of her own platoon that comes across this, and she was notified of the object at the same time. So when rebels descend on them and they have to shoot their way out, the Peruvians end up hitching a ride on the S.H.I.E.L.D. transport, which of course is a big mistake because since their primary objective is to get the 084 back away from S.H.I.E.L.D., they end up causing trouble for all those guys. Now, the part that things really started to pick up for me is when we find out what the commandos, the Peruvian commandos, are up to. And they start fighting with Ward. And then you've got Coulson fighting with the woman who's leading the commandos, who he has a personal history with, and so that's all really good. But there's one guy who drills a tiny hole into the cockpit where May is flying the plane to put gas in there to put her to sleep, and for some reason she doesn't hear the drill. That's a little odd. How come she didn't hear that? That's a little weird. And during the battle in Peru, at the site where they excavate the thing, Ward has this device which he basically puts into the ground, just like slams it in the ground. It sends out this, I don't know, kind of a wave of some kind that knocks all the rebels off their feet. But before that happens, of course, the Peruvian commander yells to her men, get down or something like that. She yells out, and all of her own men get down, but none of the rebels do, and so the wave only hits them. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, don't these people all speak the same language in this country, or was it some kind of code word she used that only her men would understand? That doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not really sure about that. So once they take over the plane, of course, then all of our main characters are locked in the cargo hold, but then they come up with the ingenious idea of basically using the tiny little flying robots that Fitz has, or is it Simmons? I think it's Fitz actually, to hover above the Tesseract device, zap it, and get it to trigger and blow a hole in the hull of the ship so that the sealed doors will become unsealed and they'll be able to run back into the main part of the plane and help take it over. And of course, with Skye having only recently read the safety manual on the plane, she figures out how to plug the hole by inflating a life raft and using it to block the hole, so everything turns out all right. Nice little fight scene there, pretty cool stuff. And like I said, I enjoyed this more than the other one just because the surprises came really quickly. There's a really good pace to it. I'm enjoying this. I hope they continue the trend of each episode being better than the last. Of course, that probably won't happen, but it's a good one. Really like this one a lot, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's episode. We had a reference to Thor's hammer, of course, as well as Captain America and the Red Skull and all those guys, of course. Because the previous 084 apparently was Mjolnir, the hammer that landed in New Mexico when in the original Thor movie from a couple years ago. There's also a reference to a Miami incident, which we may see a flashback of at some point in the future. I'm betting, that's part of the mythology now of this series. So Coulson talks about something big happening in Miami that was covered up by S.H.I.E.L.D. So probably get to see some of that firsthand at some point in the future. Some of my favorite lines in this episode where Ward is talking about his objections to Skye and how she's, a risk, basically. You know, that's the reason why I'm frowning, he says. And Coulson says, your frown will be on record. That's the scene where they reference, you know, rising tide. Well, they talk about rising tide actually throughout the picture, or throughout the episode. And then there's someone says, "Is this your first mission together?" In regards to Fitz and Simmons, and Simmons says, "Of course not. It's our second." I mean, the first episode was actually their first mission together, although they worked in the lab, I suppose. Or maybe they didn't, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like they knew each other that well if they're not on a mission together. But maybe they're just, I don't know, we're colleagues. That'll be outlined, I'm sure, in future episodes. We'll have character flashbacks of all these guys, I think, in the future. That's common for this series. Then we have at the end, when Skye is talking with Coulson about the Peruvian commando, the woman that he always has a history with. She's like, "You guys totally did it, right?" And he says, "That's classified." That's a good one. But my favorite line in the entire episode was, of course, in the very last scene, where, of course, Sam Jackson makes his Nick Fury appearance and does more yelling in that little span of like 2 minutes or whatever than he did in the entire movie, The Avengers. So I was glad to see that at all. But he's hassling Coulson about the fact that he blew a hole in the side of the plane after only 6 days of using it. And he says, you know, we had a great setup here, a bar and everything. Just put it back the way it was and don't do anything like wild, like crazy, like put a fish tank in or anything like that. So as soon as he leaves, Coulson gets on his radio and he says, "We have to kill the fish tank." It's hilarious. Yeah, real nice episode. Liked it better than the last one. So we're doing good so far. I like it. Looking forward to more on the scientists. It looks, you know, I don't know how when people are going to start hooking up on this show, but I think that Ward and Skye are good candidates to hook up, and then there's Fitz and Simmons. They'll probably get together at some point. You know, that's sort of, it's sort of, you know, with only 6 main characters, there aren't a lot of options there. But, you know, the way it is with these shows, you add on more supporting characters, maybe the team will get a little bigger. You know, it would be a wise thing I do to expand the characters a little bit more, expand the character pool, keep things fresh. But of course, I'm not a writer. I don't write television episodes, so I don't know the best way to do it. Joss knows best. Joss knows what he's doing. Although I actually forgot to check the credits to see whether or not he wrote or co-wrote this show. Probably not. He didn't even write the pilot episode. And I don't think he directed this one either, but I should double check on that. But he is, of course, the man overseeing everything, you know, as executive producer. So, yeah, there's 084. You want to, you know, give me your thoughts on this, of course. We've got comments, and we've also got a couple of the people I've noticed that have subscribed who are also doing videos on these episodes, but they're putting their videos up like immediately, like right after the episode airs. So I'm like, good for them, but I'm going to give people a little bit more time and do it a little bit later, because that gives me the chance to see the episode twice and really sort of study it. So, thanks very much for watching. Catch you again next week, and of course I'll have videos, you know, as we go along, as usual, later.